welcome to Tim Connolly Drums. Today I want to talk about something that drummers need to stop doing. And the thing that drummers need to stop doing is doing themselves a disservice by not educating themselves on their instrument and in music as a whole. I always hear a lot of people who, are drummers that don't take any lessons. They're self-taught drummers that make excuses up for why they don't want to learn from somebody else, or they don't want to learn, even in some cases, from the internet. So I believe that taking lessons is a really, really vital and important thing, and it's going to grow you as a player, a person in some cases, depending on your teacher, and it's definitely going to make you more musically well-rounded. So I know there's going to be self-taught players that watch this and say, oh, that's nonsense. I don't need to take lessons. It's a waste of money, this and that. It's only a waste of money if you get the wrong teacher. I studied with some of the greatest teachers that have ever walked the earth, like Dom Famularo, Chuck Silverman, Kevin Dempsey, Ernie Porthouse, Paul DeLong, Rick Gratton, Memo Acevedo. I've studied, the list goes on and on. I've studied with some really, really great players. Steve Smith, Zorro the drummer, Todd Zuckerman, Joe Morello. I have made it my lifetime to seek out great teachers and learn from them. So, for example, let's say you want to learn how to become an overall drummer. Well, if you want to be an overall drummer, you've got to seek out a guy that can function in funk, in rock, in pop, in jazz, jazz fusion, metal. You got to find a guy that's really well-rounded. Now, that's not easy to do because a lot of guys tend to specialize in certain genres and whatnot. But I still recommend try and find somebody that, if you're a rock player, get somebody to teach you how to play some jazz, some Afro-Cuban. For me, I learned how to play every style that I possibly could. And that's why I studied with so many different teachers, because not all of them could show me everything that I wanted to learn. When I wanted to really, really improve my hands and develop my technique, Dom Famularo was the man. When I wanted to learn how to play jazz and how to phrase in the jazz world, Kevin Dempsey was the man. When I wanted to learn how to play jazz fusion and be able to play like Billy Cobham and Vinnie Colaiuta and guys like that, Dave Weckl, well, Paul DeLong was the man. The list goes on and on and on. When I wanted to learn how to play funk and really dig in with funk chops, Chuck Silverman was the man. Memo Acevedo taught me all about Afro-Cuban and Latin beats and Brazilian samba and stuff like that, even though I did touch on that with other teachers as well. But Memo was definitely the guiding force to learn how to play those styles of music. Now, I think that one of the things that drummers have a problem with, and it's not just drummers, it's musicians in general, people in general, they can't handle being told what they're doing is wrong. Their egos are volatile and they can't handle seeing someone that's way better than them. That one I don't understand. The teacher should be better than you. That's why you're taking lessons with them. Or at least the thing that you're wanting to learn from him, he's better at it than you. So anyone that gets upset because, oh, the teacher's so much better than me, that's the whole point. Why would you take lessons from somebody that's not as good as you? It doesn't make any sense to me. When I was studying with Paul DeLong, and he was teaching me about, stuff that Vinny would do and Steve Smith would do and Weckl licks and all that stuff. And he was teaching me about phrasing in a jazz fusion type of vein. Man, his licks were, his groove and his phrasing and his licks and stuff were mind-blowing. I was totally blown away. I couldn't do any of them at the time. This is years and years ago, like 35, 40 years ago, I was learning this stuff from him. But man, I looked up to him. I'm the exact opposite of the guy that gets intimidated. I'm a guy, when I was studying with Steve Smith and watching Steve playing jazz, it was just like, wow, this guy is incredible. It's one thing to watch him on a TV show or on YouTube or even in a live performance, but it's another thing to actually have him break the things down and show you personally. It was mind blowing, the stuff that I learned from Steve, and rather than be intimidated by him. I mean, I was intimidated by him in the sense that, geez, I'll never be able to play like him, but that's okay. None of us are ever going to be able to play like Steve Smith or Vinnie Colaiuta or anyone at that extreme high level. Just play to the best of your ability. Once you get a hold of your ego and you understand that, yeah, Steve Smith's better than me, accept that, and then have a different mindset of, I can learn from him though. He's way better than me. Now, you don't want to play exactly like Steve. You never will. But take some of Steve's ideas and try to develop them and then change them into your own ideas. That's what I've always done. Whenever I learned something from a teacher, I would develop it, learn it, get it down, the thing he's showing me, and then I would alter it and move it around and make it fit into what I do. Develop your own style by using teachers that will really, really assist you and help you and guide you to develop your feel, your sense of time. A guy, I never studied with him, but a guy that does this is David Garibaldi from Tower of Power. One of my friends studied with David Garibaldi. And when I asked him about studying with David, he said that what David does is, rather than teaching you all the Tower of Power grooves and all the things that he does in Tower of Power, because you can get that in all Dave's books, and you can see Dave giving those descriptions online and stuff, what he does in his private lessons is he tries to develop your sound, your feel, your creativity. Now, exactly how he does that, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe he gives you a groove idea, some kind of a groove to work on that's a David Garibaldi groove. And then after you get it, he wants you to turn it into your own thing and develop your own way to phrase and orchestrate whatever he's showing you around the kit. That's my interpretation. I'm not exactly 100% sure if that's how David does it, but that's my guess. Now, I've studied with guys that try to develop your ideas of phrasing. When I studied jazz with Kevin Dempsey in music school, Kevin would say to me, listen to Philly Joe Jones, listen to Elvin Jones, listen to Tony Williams, listen to Max Roach, listen to me. And then take all these great drummers and then utilize their ideas, but turn it into Tim Connolly's thing. And that's what I encourage my students to do too. Take what I show you, take the ideas that I show you, and then turn it into your own thing. Now, as far as technique goes with Dom Famularo, that's a whole different thing because you can't really alter the technique that they're showing you. I mean, you can a little bit. What I did was I took the technique ideas that I learned from Joe and from Dom and from Ernie Porthouse, another amazing technical player. What I learned from these guys, I pretty much learned verbatim. In other words, I took what they showed me, and while I adapted it to fit me, I pretty much stuck to what they were doing. So if you watch the videos that I have out of the free stroke, the molar stroke, the Billy Gladstone finger technique, any of those videos that I have put out previously, it's pretty much what I learned from Dom and from Ernie and guys like that showed me the technical aspects of how to get the sticks to bounce, how to get the sticks to move, and how to be free on the drum kit in terms of easy and loose and relaxed movement. Now, I am going to do some lessons coming up that talks more about this because, it's okay to revisit these techniques and give them some fresh ideas. No doubt about that. But I really encourage you, going back to the drum teacher idea, you drummers out there that are nervous about getting a drum teacher, you're afraid that you're going to be humiliated at the lessons. You got the wrong teacher then. Let me tell you a story about one of my students. I had this student, he was an advanced player playing in a Pearl Jam tribute band, and he was a great player, but he lacked technique, and he openly admitted to me that he would get tired at gigs, and he didn't understand sometimes what was going on musically with the other instruments and whatnot. So we spent a lot of time working on his technical abilities. Now, the first few lessons, he came to me and he said, "Man, I've never taken drum lessons before. I wish I'd taken drum lessons years and years ago. I wish I'd studied with you years ago." So instead of him saying, "Oh man, this is really hard, I'm never going to learn this," and giving up like so many people do, he embraced it and thought, "Why didn't I do this sooner?" So he embraced the lessons and he started to develop, and his techniques started to get better and better and better. And he noticed a huge improvement in his playing in the Pearl Jam tribute and also in an original band that he played in. He really started to notice a big difference in his playing. Another one of my students was a cruise line drummer, and not a cruise line drummer in the sense that he would spend 6 months on a boat working for Princess Caribbean, let's say, or Disney or whatever. What he did was his band as a whole would go on to Alaska, European, Princess Caribbean, Disney, whatever. He would move from boat to boat to boat with his band, and they would play on the ships. Now, he told me, oh yes, I have a stick here. He told me that he would start getting cramping in his hand here and here, and then it would start to cause his finger to lose feeling and his thumb to really tighten up and hurt. So we're talking about here, here, losing feeling here, and the thumb. So as a result, he'd be playing and he'd shift to this grip. Now, this isn't a grip, to be totally honest. This is an exercise that I teach when I'm teaching the Billy Gladstone technique to get your fingers moving. I give this as an exercise only to understand a ball bouncing idea and how to get your fingers to do this. The Joe Morello finger exercise that I learned. And then you turn it into this exercise. But because of the problems he was having with his hand, he would turn to this as a means to play his grooves. And I was like, yeah, that's got to stop. So once I taught him the free stroke, how to get the stick to bounce, once I taught him the molar stroke, the whipping motion, and then, of course, utilizing your fingers in the Billy Gladstone technique, getting this motion moving, that changed him for the better. And he told me that after only a very short period of time, only 3 months, he noticed a great change in his playing for the better. And that when he was on the ship, utilizing the techniques that I showed him, he was able to go back to playing the way he should be playing and holding the sticks the way he should be holding the sticks. And he was able to relax, not just his hands, his arms, and his whole body to relax. Because if you're tense, if you're not loose, rather, in your whole body, the tension is going to come out somewhere in your body. And usually, and for drummers, it comes out in our hands and feet. So, you want to be able to completely have a full body relaxation to be able to play. And that's what I emphasize in my teaching. The other thing I emphasize in my teaching that drummers should welcome and not be afraid of or intimidated by is learning about music, understanding what the guitar player is doing, what the bass player is doing, what the keyboardist is doing, what the singer is doing, understanding music in the sense that you can listen to a song and understand the intro, the verse, the chorus, the repeat of that section perhaps, and then the shift to the bridge, the segues, the instrumental sections, the solo sections. You could have a double bridge leading into a chorus, leading to a chorus outro, which is a vamp. Okay, so a vamp is a repeating, "Hey Jude," the biggest vamp ever. Just repeating that on and on and on and on. Drummers tend to get lost in the form of songs. So one of the things that I emphasize to all my students, and I'm actually currently doing it right now with all of them, is teaching them about music, understanding what a vamp is and how to not get lost in the song. If you understand the form of music, you're not going to get lost. So if you're a drummer that doesn't study, that doesn't take lessons, you're just missing out on these important musical things, not just fancy drumming licks, but musical things. The most important thing for a drummer to learn is to be musical and make the band sound good. Make yourself sound good, but make the band sound good. How do you make the band sound good? Well, you understand musical form. You know when the drum fill that is coming up that leads to the chorus, the pre-chorus, the verse, the bridge, the instrumental, whatever. You understand music and you know the song. The other thing that's important that's going to help drummers is reading music. So if you're reading a chart, you read down that chart, brilliant. You know exactly where everything's happening because it's written out for you. Or you do something in music school, we called it lifting. And basically what that is learning how to listen to a song, listen to music, and then write it. So you hear the drum groove, you hear the different parts of the song, and you're able to lift it. Now, lifting can be, I'm not talking about lifting guitar parts. For drummers, I'm saying lift the form of the tune, verse, intro, verse, chorus, bridge, all that. Lift it so that you understand. Then inside of the intro, verse, chorus, you write out what your parts are. And you can also use vocal cues to help you know exactly where the sections are that you need to set up a drum fill to move to the next section. Because that's what we do. We play grooves and we play setup fills. That's what we do. But a lot of drummers don't understand that, and they play the fills in the wrong spots in the tune, or they play too much of a fill, otherwise known as wanking or overplaying. So I think it's really, really important for you guys out there to seriously seek out a really great teacher. Now, that's not easy. I mean, obviously, I don't know every teacher everywhere around the world, obviously. But if you look up Dom Familero's list of great teachers, his actual list of the best teachers he feels are in the world, if you look that up, just look up Dom Familero's top world teachers or something like that, Dom Familero's best teachers in the world, which I'm on that list. I'm very proud to say I'm on the Canada section of that list, and I really, really appreciated when Dom put me on that list. But you can find teachers in Canada, in Africa, in the United States, in Australia, in England, in Europe, various parts throughout Europe. He's got a list that embraces the world. So that might be a way to help. The other thing is to talk to people. I've always sought drum teachers out. Now, obviously, if a guy lives in New York, I can't do a person, one-on-one session with the guy weekly. It's impossible. So if I'm taking a lesson with Steve Smith, plus it's super expensive to study with high-level players like that, I only do it once in a while, once in a blue moon. Like some teachers I've only ever had one lesson with, like Todd Zuckerman, I think I've had 2 lessons with actually. But, to get out and go all the way to wherever they live. Todd lives in Texas, so that's really hard for me to get to. It's very difficult if you're seeking out a teacher of that caliber. But there's always going to be local guys that are great players. There's a lot of great local drummers that you can try and seek out. So stop denying yourself education. That's the most important part of this video. So many drummers just think they can do it on their own and that they don't need a teacher. And it's nonsense. I don't need to learn how to read music. I disagree. I think you should learn how to read music, learn how to play different styles, learn how to phrase, learn about musicality on the drum kit, learn how the drums are used to make the band sound good. That's top dog, top dog. And guess what? If you make a band sound good and you know when to phrase and when not to, when to hold back and when to reach out, when to be super dynamic and when to be low dynamic. All of these little things that you should be able to learn from a drum teacher, and in some cases, learning on the gig. A lot of stuff I can remember teachers telling me the most you're going to learn after you have lessons with a teacher is right on the gig, applying the things that you've been studying with your teacher. And I agree with that 100%. I learned so much about being a musician. I've always hated the what do you call the guy that hangs out with a band joke, the drummer. Don't be that guy. Don't be that drummer that hangs out with the band. Be the drummer that is an integral part of the band and is just as strong musically inside of the band as everyone else. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope this helps. And I hope that you seek out a teacher. I'm available for lessons if you're in my Southern Ontario area. I'm also available for online Zoom lessons. If you are interested, hit me up. And you just need a PayPal account. And of course, you need to be hooked up to Zoom and put Zoom in music mode so that you can hear the drums, because Zoom will compress all sounds other than talking if it's not in music mode. So that's a very, very important thing if you want to do online lessons. Online's not the best, but it's better than nothing. If you can make your way to my home studio and actually study with me in person, awesome, fantastic. I'd love to have you. Message me and find out my rates and all my info, and we could set something up. I'm thrilled to be able to reach out and teach some of you guys. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, keep drumming and keep learning. Keep learning.